Thomas had been working the late shift at his local Burger King for almost 2 years. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the rent, and the hours suited him. He was a night owl anyway, so standing behind the drive-thru window from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. never really bothered him the way it did most people. Everything started about a month ago. That night, Thomas was working the drive-thru alone. After midnight, the restaurant was usually understaffed. Around that time, a car pulled up to the speaker. The voice on the other end was male, nothing unusual. The order was a large double Whopper with cheese meal and a Coke. Completely standard. The only strange part came when the man went to pay.
Welcome to room 13, where every story hides a secret, a place where the unknown comes to life, and the eerie is all too real. Here, we uncover the chilling tales that lurk in the shadows.
He rolled his window down just enough to slide his card through. The windows were heavily tinted, so Thomas couldn't see his face at all. The payment went through, Thomas handed him the receipt, and then the car drove off, without stopping at the second window to pick up the food. Thomas waited with the bag in his hands for a few minutes, expecting the car to come back. It never did. Eventually, he set the order aside and ate it himself later. People did weird things sometimes, and he didn't think much of it. About a week later, it happened again. Same order, same routine. The man paid at the first window and then drove off before collecting his food. Thomas remembers thinking it was strange. Someone had done the exact same thing the week before, but he still brushed it off as a coincidence. It wasn't until the third time that it clicked. Same voice, same order, same behavior. That was when Thomas realized it had to be the same person. He knew something was off, but he wasn't about to complain. The food was paid for, and he was the one eating it. So he kept enjoying the free Whopper meals and tried not to think too hard about why some random stranger was essentially buying him dinner every few days. This went on for several weeks. Every 4 or 5 days, always late, usually between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., the man would show up and place the same order. Thomas almost started to look forward to it in a strange way. Whenever a few days passed, he'd catch himself wondering if his mysterious benefactor would show up that night. Then one night, around 2 a.m., Thomas heard the familiar voice through the speaker again. He already knew what was coming. The same meal, the same outcome. But this time, the man said something else. Something that made Thomas freeze. "I hope you've been enjoying those Whoppers, Mr. Hurley." Thomas's last name was Hurley. He didn't wear a name tag with his last name on it. It wasn't posted anywhere customers could see. There was absolutely no reason for this man to know it. For a moment, Thomas just stood there, silent. His mind couldn't keep up with what he'd just heard. Then he started talking into the speaker, asking who the man was, what he wanted, and how he knew his name. He must have asked, "Who is this?" 4 or 5 times. The man never answered. This time, he didn't even pull up to pay. Thomas heard the engine rev, and then the car was gone. Thomas was shaken for the rest of his shift. There was nothing he could do, but he couldn't get rid of the feeling that something was deeply wrong. He didn't realize how much worse it was about to get. When Thomas got home that morning, he found a handwritten note sitting on his doorstep. "I know what you did. You have 3 days. He stood there staring at it, his hand trembling. A sick feeling twisted in his stomach, like he'd been punched in the gut. He had no idea what he was supposed to have done. He went over everything in his mind, trying to think of anything at all that could explain it. There was nothing. He didn't have enemies. He didn't have secrets. He was a 24-year-old guy who worked at Burger King and played video games on his days off. His life was painfully ordinary. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he sat on his couch with all the lights on, dreading whatever was coming next. But nothing happened. The next night at work, the man was back. This time, he didn't bother ordering food. He told Thomas to write something down. Before Thomas could even respond, the man gave him an address, some random location on the outskirts of town that Thomas didn't recognize. Then the man told him he had 2 days to deliver $10,000. Thomas almost laughed. It sounded ridiculous. But the moment the car drove away, the fear came rushing back. There was no way he could pay that kind of money. He didn't have it. He never had. So he ignored it. He convinced himself it had to be a scam or some twisted prank. He thought about calling the police, but didn't. 3 nights later, Thomas thought it was over. Then, while he was sitting at home watching TV after his shift, glass exploded across the room. He hit the floor instantly, convinced someone was shooting at him.
When he finally worked up the courage to look around, he realized someone had thrown a rock through his window. By the time he got outside, whoever had done it was gone. That time, he called the police. He told them everything, the drive-thru orders, the note, the address. They said they'd check it out and told him to stay alert. Without any footage or witnesses, there wasn't much they could do. That was 3 days ago. Thomas had called in sick the last 3 nights, but he knew it wouldn't matter. The man already knew where he lived. He couldn't afford to stop working, and he couldn't afford to move. He was trapped. Now all he could do was wait, hoping the police could track the man down, maybe through the credit card used to pay for the Whopper meals. He still had no idea why he was being targeted. All he could do was hope things didn't escalate any further.
Hey, the stories aren't over yet, but consider subscribing and leaving a like. With a simple tap on the screen, you help our work a lot. Now, without further ado, let's move on to the next story.